hope, even whenever things seem very bleak. So what does a leader do? What are the questions a leader should be asking? What's possible, team? What's possible? What seems impossible, team? What seems impossible, but if it were possible, would transform our project, our world for the better? And then, team, what might make impossible become possible? Because all kinds of people have said things are impossible and then been proven wrong. For example, my favorite physicist, Lord Kelvin, in the 1890s said heavier than air flying machines are impossible. Heavier than air flying machines are impossible? Really? What did he think about birds? There were birds, okay? Birds are heavier than air. But he said they're impossible, which guarantees he and his team will not be the ones inventing them. Then less than 10 years later, the Wright brothers have the first heavier than air flying machine. Now, I've been tracking these impossible things for a long time now. And every time some expert says something's impossible, I know it's going to happen within about 10 years. So be careful. Don't be one of those people that I put into my presentation about impossible things, right? What seems impossible today just means we don't know how. So let me ask you a question. Dr. Chandler is a really smart person, okay? Really super smart. What % of everything in the whole universe do you think Dr. Chandler knows? What % of everything that any human being could possibly know? Dr. Chandler, why don't you type into the chat? What % of everything do you personally know? Yes, it's very small, less than 1%. You're very humble, less than 1%. Now, if you tell your idea to Dr. Chandler, and you have this great, big, huge, big, crazy dream, this idea, and she cannot immediately think of how to do it or how it would be feasible, what should she say? She should think about this. Oh my gosh, I only know 0.00001% of everything in the entire universe. And even though I can't think of how this might be possible, she should say, interesting, tell me more. That's what you should say. That's what you should say when your team members come to you and say, hey, Lamar, I have an idea how to triple our results in our project and cut our costs in half and dramatically improve the delight of our stakeholders. Instead of telling them why it's not possible and how you can't imagine how to do it, you can say, oh God, maybe I only know less than 1% of everything in the entire universe. And then you say to your team member, interesting, tell me more. And then you listen to them for 3 minutes longer than normal until it's physically painful to do so, until you want to dig your heart out with a rusty spoon. And you keep on listening, and your team is going to unleash the team genius that you need to be wildly successful. Wildly successful. And this is particularly helpful when you have somebody that you really don't like on your team, somebody that you really don't care for, you don't think they're trying to do the right thing. So that's when I use something called assumption of positive intent. I'm going to write it in the chat, assumption of positive intent. So here's a story that tells you exactly what this means. I'm driving through town, one-way street, in a hurry to my meeting, and I tried to get through this little alleyway, and there's a BMW, brand new blue BMW with its flashers on and the driver's side door open in front of the flower shop. And what am I thinking? I'm thinking, what a jerk, doesn't care about anybody else. Now I'm stuck. I can't go forward. I can't go backwards. I'm late for my meeting. Now, if we assume positive intent, what would have to be true for that BMW driver's behavior to make perfect sense? And I too would behave exactly the same in that circumstance. Can you think of a situation? Assuming positive intent, maybe he hit a kid on a bicycle and he's in front of it. Yes, emergency. Loved one had died. Yes. There's a kid bleeding to death in the street in front of him and he's trying to save his life. Or the guy from the shop. No, I don't care if he has to get flowers. You're funny. So he goes in the shop. Maybe the guy stumbled out onto the street having a heart attack, the flower shop guy. Or maybe it was a carjacking. Okay, or maybe the driver slumped over in the front seat and he's having a heart attack, and here you are honking on the horn while these people are dying. So try that. Think of the person who is the most irritating to you, the most annoying, and you can't find any real value in what they contribute to your project. And I want you to assume positive intent. This will be one of your homeworks, and make up a story that, if it were true, it would make perfect sense that they're acting that way. And here's the second thing, if you want to go for extra credit, pretend it's all your fault. For example, once I was leading a project and I was having a hard time getting some deliverables from this one person on my team. And I said, am I doing something? What am I doing that's making it hard for you to do your deliverables? And he said, well, Kimberly, you put me on 3 different tasks and I'm spread too thin and I can't focus on the ones that are most important. Okay, cool, great. But pretend it's your fault and ask, how am I contributing to the things I'm complaining about? And how can I make a positive difference? That's why I carry this chicken. Watch this chicken carefully. See what happened? It fell. What caused it to fall? Not gravity. No, I released it. There's always gravity. Hold on to the freaking chicken. That's right. I dropped it. Thank you, Amber. I dropped it. So taking responsibility, pretending it's our responsibility to lead people, lead teams, manage the project, manage schedule, manage budget. And by the way, there's a lot of risk in projects. Everything doesn't work perfectly. So we have to think about big why, big who, big what, big how, then de-risk it, and then prototype, experiment, take necessary risks, learn from mistakes, fail forward. I work with some companies that say, oh yeah, Kimberly, we want you to make us much more innovative. Like in Japan, they want to become much more innovative. And I said, okay, good. When's the last time you celebrated a mistake that you learned from? Oh, no, we do not celebrate mistakes. Yeah, that's right. So then I tell them, okay, in my workshop, you have to make at least 3 mistakes a day or you fail this workshop. And they're like, 3 mistakes a day or I fail? Then their brain shorts out in their mind. And then they start to do it, right? Take necessary risks, learn from mistakes, fail forward and shout, woohoo, I'm changing. I really do make them do that. Let's try it. Cross your arms like this, cross your arms. Okay, and now look down at your arms and cross them the other way. Does it feel a little strange? Does it feel uncomfortable? Most people say it's a little uncomfortable to cross their arms the other way. Is it evil? Is it rude? Is it against the law to cross our arms the other way? Heck no, it's just different. And when we start to change, it's going to feel different, even uncomfortable. So if you start to become the kind of leader people willingly follow and admire, you are going to feel uncomfortable. And when you start to feel uncomfortable, I want you to keep going, keep going. And if you want to, you can shout out, woohoo, I'm changing. That's optional. That's like a bonus for me, but you don't have to. Yes, excellent. So there's last thing I want to say about that. What kind of leaders do people admire and willingly follow? Well, it's been well known, studied by Barry Posner and Jim Kouzes in the Leadership Challenge research for 30 years. Honest is the #1 characteristic. Honest. Number 2 is forward-looking. Thank you, Tamin, for putting persistent in there. Honest, forward-looking, inspiring, and competent. All over the world, people will willingly follow those leaders. Honest, forward-looking, inspiring, and competent. Hey, that's not attached to a position or a title on your business card either. So I just want you to notice that leadership is behavior. Leadership is people working together to achieve what none of them could do alone. Let me just show you this data because I know you're gonna like it to just see this data, because I mean there's such a misunderstanding of what is leadership and what is management. And this, oops, oh no, oh well, who knows what you're seeing. Here we go. So 85% of people surveyed said honest. You have to be honest or forget it. I won't willingly follow you. Forward-looking, inspiring, and competent. And then let me give you the bad news. There's some really great data from Bob Sutton, the guy who wrote The Knowing Doing Gap, on why people would not follow you. I'll take you through this little exercise here. Do you think people who have power give or receive more flattering feedback? People who are in positions of power, whether it's position, title, authority, money, influence, they receive more positive comments, more positive feedback. People don't tell them what they're doing wrong, so it's no wonder that they don't change to be more reasonable. And impulse control. People who have power have been proven by years of research by this guy at Stanford University that I personally know to have lower impulse control. And people who are in positions of power tend to think of their own needs more than other people's. The very leaders who are supposed to be caring about us tend to think about their own needs and have lower empathy and also think the rules don't apply to them. And then Bob Sutton, who's a rigorous researcher, asked this question: do these kinds of people get promoted, or does power change people? What do you think? What do you think? Oh, you know the answer. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. Thank you, Abraham Lincoln. You can find more about this. Dr. Bob Sutton calls it power poisoning. There's lots of research on it. And unfortunately, we are also potentially vulnerable to this. So what I want you to think about, when you ascend to higher positions of power, how are you going to ensure that you do not fall victim to power poisoning? Colin Powell had this approach. When he was promoted to a high level in one of the administrations years ago, he went to 3 of his really good friends and he said, if I start acting like a jerk, call me on it. One CEO said, the day I was promoted to CEO was the last day anybody told me the truth except my spouse. Okay, all right. Well, thank you for participating in the chat. Assuming positive intent, Victoria, something we talk about constantly at work. Yes. After years of playing that positive devil's advocate, I find that I do it without effort. Good for you, Victoria. Wonderful. By the way, assuming positive intent, it's not to make up stories that aren't true for the sake of the other person. When we assume a positive intent and make up a story, it's for ourselves, so that we can develop more options of how to deal with this person besides merely reacting out of our emotions. So don't do it for that other person. Do it for yourself so that you can give yourself a few milliseconds between stimulus and response to stop, think, organize, and plan, imagine a range of scenarios, and then take some thoughtful action that might end up being effective. How can assuming positive intent help us counterbalance a bias we tend to use? Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, assuming positive intent, if you have to make up at least 3 reasons why that person's behavior makes sense, it will start to balance out our natural brain's bias. My colleague, Matthew Cahill, I'll put his name here, Matthew Cahill. His whole expertise is on bias. And here's what he says. If you have a brain, you're biased. It's just how it works. So everybody has biases. It's just a matter of what kind of biases we have. Maybe I have one more fun thing, because I like talking about leadership these days because it's not very well understood, the difference between leadership and management. So here's a picture of a bunch of monkeys in a tree. So if you're a monkey at the top of the tree and you look down, what do you see? Bunch of smiling faces looking up at you, right? But if you're the monkey at the bottom of this tree looking up, what do you see? I think you get the point. All right. Well, here I am almost at the end of the hour. I love to have more questions, comments, hang out with you in the chat or in any way interact. Please let me know what else you would like to talk about or ask some questions, and I'm happy to hang around. Oh, I hope the internet's not keeping us from interacting. Oh, well. Okay, well, here's one offer I would like to make to all of you. I am happy to have you reach out to me and schedule a 10 or 15-minute conversation on anything that would be helpful to you. I do a lot of coaching, one-on-one, and I do what I call thinking partner sessions. And if there's something I can do, happy to support. So my treat, free 10, 15-minute conversation for possibilities as your thinking partner. And how do you reach me? Kimberly at wiefling.com, or that's my phone number. Feel free to text me. I'm 500 emails behind, but if you text me, I will usually get back to you within a day. Thank you, Dr. Chandler. You implement practices well before there are problems. Yes, you have to have working together agreements. You know, I was working with some executives at a big car company. One year we were doing a global leadership program for their executives. And I said, well, we should have working together agreements. And they're like, oh no, Kimberly, we're professional. Well, after the first 3 months, I said, no, we're gonna have working together agreements. So I forced them to talk about how their behaviors are contributing negatively to the team dynamic. And it's way better to do it at the start of a project. And a fun way is to get your team on a shared whiteboard and say, how can we make sure that our project is a complete failure? What could I personally say or do? And just brainstorm the heck out of that, because brain loves negativity, and then reverse it. What can you personally do and say to make sure your team is a complete failure, and then reverse it? And that'll be a great start to your working together agreements. Teams that skip this crucial step, they'll pay for it later. Number one reason that teams fail, they fail to build trusting relationships. Number one reason. Start there. All right. Thank you for sharing your expertise. Okay, Kayla, it's my pleasure. Lamar, thank you so much for your time and energy today. Greatly appreciated. I'm so delighted. I hope I will cross paths with all of you. Make sure you call me, text me. Let's connect. I'm available. All of my work for the whole rest of the year was canceled because I normally spend 40, 50, 60, 80% of my time flying all over planet Earth. So now I'm looking for things to do. I'm finding them, and one of them could be talking with you. Honest feedback, model the behavior, great. You're very welcome, Crystal. Oh, I'm full of something, full of knowledge. I hope so. Oh my, I'm so glad the recording kept going off during this hour. It's nice meeting you. Thank you. Okay, Sama. Yes, you're welcome. Yes, thank you, Dr. Chandler, for pulling this together and taking the time to plan this so that we can all come together like this. I'm looking forward to seeing you again somewhere on planet Earth. I'll hang out. You guys can do as you wish. I'll hang out here. I'm sorry if the internet wasn't up to par today. It's the WWW, worldwide waste of time. That's what they say.
Hey, Kimberly, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, I was just looking at my list. I didn't take a screenshot of it from your book, but I did write it down by hand. I remember it better. But okay. I just love that the scrappy project management list and the very bottom line of attitude of gratitude. So I really appreciate that and your time today.
Oh my gosh, attitude of gratitude. It is so amazingly frequently overlooked. In fact, the best marriages have 5. Yes, thank you for mentioning that, Kristen. Attitude of gratitude. Take some time to tell people, hey, I just learned a really powerful way to give people positive comments. It has 4 parts. You tell them what they did. You tell how they did it that you found inspirational, why they did it that you admire, and who they are that really inspires you. So for example, let me practice on Dr. Chandler. Dr. Chandler reached out to invite me. She was so gracious and friendly, and she spent lots of time planning with me how to be effectively interacting with you all. And she did it because she really cares about your experience in this class. And that's who she is. That's the kind of leader she is. That she's not doing this because it's her job. She's doing it because it's her calling. And I respect that. Thank you, Dr. Chandler. Let's give her a big round of applause. You hit the reaction button, people. Yes, thank you, Crystal's phone. Woohoo! All right. Thank you so much. Oh, yes, we are sweet. And you know, you can do that. Go home and do that to one of your family members. What they did, how they did it, why they did it that you admire, and who they are that inspires you. There's going to be tears in their eyes. That's a real powerful way to give a positive comment. And it's from a book called something about influence. I have to look it up, but why, who, what, and what, who, why, and how. Did it bring tears to your eyes? Ooh, Dr. Chandler. I mean it. All right, so practice that this week. Change everything for your relationships. I'm happy to send information about any of this. Follow up, PowerPoint, you're welcome to use it. Just let me know what pieces of this, because it's not all in one PowerPoint. Happy to share that with you on a Google document. Just write to me. Yeah. Thank you. All right, you guys. Yes, okay. I'll send Dr. Chandler some of the PowerPoint that I referenced. If I forget something, just let me know. And you're welcome to use it with attribution, no problem. If you can replace me with PowerPoint, by all means do it. Okay. Yeah, you can send a direct email as well. I welcome. Just I'm 500 email behind, so you might want to text me and say, hey, Kimberly, there's an important email waiting for you. Yes, Lighthorn is funny. Oh gosh. Thank you. Well, I got a lot of things here to make things funny. I have all kinds of things to try to amuse people on the many hours of Zoom that we're doing every week. So we try to do things to keep it interesting, because and like I was doing earlier today, I'm like, you know, sometimes you have to have a little bit of fun together. And when we're Zooming like this for many hours every day, we've got to do something to break it up. So surprise your team with something like that. Here's my favorite hat lately. That might have gone over the top. That was a gift for me from one of the groups I spoke to a couple of months ago. All right. Thank you so much. Top of the hour in 1 minute. Lamar, good to chat with you. Saba, nice meeting with you. Kristen, thank you. Victoria, Amber, Jill, Laurie, Gabrielle, Jennifer, Dr. Chandler, appreciate it. Your 5-year-old enjoyed my accessories. Well, good. How about these ones? Here's my last ones for the day. All right. Take care. Stay safe, people. Keep hope alive.
Thank you.
Gabrielle Fleischman. There he is at the Pentagon. Amber Fournier. All right. Okay, cool. Glad I could hang out with you guys.
Oh, there we go. I got my
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
I sent you an email a couple weeks back, and you replied. So I just want to thank you very much for that email. Your information was very useful. So.
Oh, great. I'm going to reach out to you on LinkedIn and see if we connect there as well.
Okay, that'd be fabulous. Thank you. And I'm enjoying your book, and I appreciate Dr. Chandler picking such a applicable, non-text-like real-world book. So thank you for writing it, and thank you, Dr. Chandler, for picking it.
And thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, you know, it's not easy to, yeah, there's a lot of really tough projects on planet Earth, and you got to have a few scrappy people to do that. If it was easy, the other people would be doing it.
That is very true. I actually typed that in the comments that I find it interesting how many people, especially in this world, have a background in military one way or another.
Yeah.
Dr. Chandler was telling me about how she worked with the different branches and everything as well. So, and yet they get it wrong so many times. It blows my mind. So.
In what way?
Just the military, how it, the whole reason I'm in this position is because the people who, the civilian contractors who are paid to do this mess it up so bad that, you know, apparently my boss thought I had a good head on my shoulders, so he threw me into it, and the people who are supposed to be there and paid day to day to do their job don't, you know, and it's figured out a better way in the military to handle project management. It's very
I did a little bit of work for NASA and other government agencies, and I have to tell you, I prefer working with kind of more of the businesses because there's consequences for failure.
Yes. Yes. And there's unity to purpose.
Yes.
You know, especially in the Marine Corps, we have so many different systems. You know, for my project, I'm trying to get like 8 systems to talk to each other, and one system is literally waiting to die. Like the guy I talked to that I'm trying to get, they can't even export information out. And we're like, why? And they told my data people, they're like, it was designed 12 years ago as a gap filler, and it's been a gap filler for 12 years. So now at this point, they're just waiting for it to die so that they can do the next thing. It was never supposed to be like an ongoing thing. It was supposed to be, but that next thing that was supposed to replace it got canceled. So it was always, we have something good enough. Just keep doing that. You know, because it's whoever comes in. So unfortunately, you know.
Well, one of the executives I talked to about making some necessary changes said, well, Kimberly, I'm going to retire in 3 years. Please come back in 3 years, and suggested. And then another group I talked to said,